Hey guys, we are on day 103 in our Bible reading plan, and today we're reading in the book of Samuel, chapters 18, 19, and 20, and also in the book of Psalms, we'll be reading Psalms 11 and 59. We read in chapter 18 that Saul becomes jealous over David's victories and the people's favor. So David is in the service of the king, he's in his courts, and Saul begins throwing spears at him. He throws a spear at him, David runs away, and instead of him being in his court, he puts him in command of over 1,000 men, which works against him again because David has victory and he's extremely successful and he earns more and more the people's favor. Then we read that Saul's son Jonathan pledges his allegiance to David. We read that Saul's daughter loves David and wants to marry him, and you kind of get this sense that everyone around Saul loves David. Instead of just giving his daughter to him in marriage, which he could have done because he didn't do that. David refused to marry his daughter after he killed Goliath. He still could have given a different daughter in marriage to him. Instead, he demands 100 foreskins of Philistines. David delivers and they're married. Then in chapter 19, we read that Saul tells all of his attendants and his son Jonathan to kill David. Jonathan is good friends with David. He loves David. And so he talks Saul out of this action. He thinks he reasoned with him and averted it. And so David comes back into Saul's courts, and Saul once again tries to kill him. He throws a spear at him again. And then he sends his men to David's home to kill him. His wife hears the plan and she warns David ahead of time and sends him away. David then goes to Samuel. Saul hears that that's where he is, so Saul sends men to Samuel to kill David. And the first group of men he sends, they end up prophesying when they get there. He sends another group of men. They end up prophesying. Finally, Saul himself goes, and Saul spends the day on his face naked, prophesying before the Lord. The Lord will not allow him to touch David, and he will not allow his men to harm him either. Then we read in chapter 20 that David flees and he goes to Jonathan. He tells Jonathan what's going on. They hatch a plan to discover what Jonathan's father, Saul's, true intentions are toward David. And this plan just confirms that Saul really doesn't like David. He's really angry with him. He wants to kill him. His intentions are malicious toward David at this point. And it's this picture of this incredible friendship that Jonathan, one, would risk his life for his friend, but also that he makes a covenant with him that really, if you think about who Jonathan is, he's the son of Saul. He stands to inherit the kingdom most probably. Saul even says that at one point, why would you support this man? Don't you know that he'll take your kingdom from you? And so there's this sense that Jonathan doesn't care. He knows his father is wrong and he knows that David is right. And so he's going to stand with him. He's going to support him. All he asks is that David, when he comes into the kingdom, that he takes care of Jonathan and his descendants. They make this incredible covenant for the persecution that David is undergoing. It speaks so much to what kind of friendship they really have. So then we read Psalm 11 and Psalm 59, and both these psalms are written by David during this time of persecution when he's undergoing this persecution from Saul. Psalm 11 is just this beautiful picture of David's assurance that if he remains righteous before the Lord, that the Lord will take out his enemy. He's trusting him. He's crying out to the Lord in his time of trouble. And then Psalm 59, we're reading that David is crying out for God to really save him. The difference between the two Psalms is very telling of just where David's heart is, that even in the midst of this extreme trouble, he's crying out to God for God to bring justice to his enemies, that he trusts God, he trusts God's plan. David has been anointed king of Israel at this moment. We sort of forget that because it's happened a while ago now. It happened before he slayed Goliath, and yet he still hasn't come into his kingdom, and things are just getting worse and worse and worse. And it's this picture that David is holding on to this promise from God. He's holding on to the truth that he knows he has been called for a higher purpose than what he's experiencing now, but he refuses to lay a hand on Saul. He's going to let God work out the previous kingship and what's going on there, and trust that God in his time is going to bring David into his kingdom in the right way. That's just such a beautiful picture to me, that we can trust God when we don't understand how the details of his plan are working out in our life, that we can trust that God has a purpose and intention for us, that we were made for good works, that He is determined for us to do. And He has purpose and intention for our lives. And all we have to do is to live uprightly, to continue to honor Him, continue to trust that He'll make a way for us. I hope that encourages you. I hope you guys have a great day. I can't wait to hear your comments on what you thought about the reading and what God's speaking to you.